6 years, bro, I was addicted to porn and masturbation, and I literally tried every single way in those 6 years to stop. Every single way you could think of, every single way you've ever seen, taking a deep breath. I tried to decrease it slowly, get out of the house, shut your phone off. Put all the blockers on it, transmuting like the sexual energy, all that. I tried all that, but nothing worked for me, and I was severely addicted. Like I used to do it probably like every single day, honestly, like every single day, doing it over and over again. And it just made me depressed, it just made me sad, it just made me socially anxious. It made me not able to interact with anyone. But there's a framework that I created, and I researched this topic probably more than every other topic like I can ever tell you. And I actually studied this framework, and I promise you, this 4-pillar framework literally makes it impossible to relapse if you actually do it right. It makes it literally impossible if you do all 4 pillars right. And it made me stop, it made me quit forever after 6 years. And I hope it will do the same thing with you. And I'm sure, honestly, it will do the same thing with you, for you, right? So here is literally the most powerful scientific 4-pillar framework that makes it absolutely impossible to relapse. And please, bro, watch till the end of the video, because I'm telling you, the 4th pillar, the last pillar, is by far the most powerful. And if you just do this one pillar, and I will explain how, it makes porn and masturbation literally impossible. It makes it absolutely impossible to relapse, I'm telling you. And it kills porn and masturbation at the root of it, all right? So here are the 4 pillars that made me quit forever and makes it literally impossible for me to relapse ever again, all right? So the first pillar of the 4 pillars is identity. And I'm gonna give you an example for this one. Like, imagine if we have 2 guys who are severely addicted to smoking, right? 2 guys, but one guy says, I'm just bring the camera here. One guy says, I'm trying to stop smoking, and the other guy says, I don't smoke. Well, of course, this guy is gonna still smoke, and this guy will not smoke, because his identity is what drives his actions. The brain acts in accordance to its beliefs and its values. Basically, and this is what I learned from the book Atomic Habits, is that our identity is what leads to our actions. So basically, this is actually how like habits are actually formed, right? Is you first have the identity, which is the core of all habits, and then you have the behavior. So identity drives behavior, and then that drives the outcome, right? So I'm just gonna give you an example. Like, if someone has the identity of a person who loves going to the gym, right? If you have the identity, you have the identity of someone who goes to the gym. That identity, your mind is gonna think, oh, I'm someone who goes to the gym, so you go to the gym. So it's gonna drive your behavior. You're actually gonna go to the gym because you're that guy who loves going to the gym. And then when you go to the gym, all right, you're gonna lift weights and you're gonna build muscle, so you get the outcome. Right, so the identity was, I love going to the gym. The behavior was, you actually went to the gym. The outcome was, you built muscle, basically, or you got healthy, basically. So this is in good habits and also in bad habits. So if we change the identity, just the identity, we stop the behavior, and therefore we stop the outcome. And this is basically what happened to me, is that my identity was, I'm someone who's addicted to porn and masturbation. And that led to behavior, which I actually did it, and then that led to the outcome, which is, being sad, being depressed that I actually did it. But when I changed my identity, the identity was, I don't watch porn or masturbation or do any of that. That then led to process, which was, I don't do that, so I just kept going days and days and days without doing it. And then the outcome was, I was free of it forever. So just changing the identity made me stop forever. And the way I actually changed my identity is very simple, right? It was just saying to myself one simple phrase that I always used to say to myself is, I don't do that shit anymore. I just kept repeating that to myself. I don't do that shit anymore. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. Like, don't even say it in your mind. Say it out loud. I don't do that shit anymore. Firmly say it to yourself, and the more you're gonna say that to yourself, and basically what's gonna happen, and basically what happened to me and what I did is just simply saying this one sentence of I don't do this shit anymore every single day, over and over and over again. Every time I got an urge, I don't do that shit anymore. Every single day, every single time I wanted to relapse, I don't do that shit anymore. I had to firmly say that to myself. And what happened was, the more I repeated it to myself, I don't do that shit anymore, I don't do that shit anymore, the more I just kept saying it to myself, the more just my subconscious kept believing it. Because your conscious mind, when you say something consciously, it sends a message to your subconscious. So your subconscious, my subconscious believed that, and that's what actually I am now. I'm actually now the outcome of someone who doesn't do that shit. Right, now I must say that identity is also built on the other three pillars that I will say right now, but just the action step for identity is just saying to yourself, I don't do that shit anymore, out loud, saying it over and over and over again. I don't do that shit anymore, all right? And of course, the more days you go without PMO, basically, the stronger your identity gets. So identity is also based on the other three pillars and how many days you go without it, without porn and masturbation, basically. Right, so the first thing is identity, and just saying to yourself, I don't do that shit anymore, out loud, right? The second thing is environment, and this is where I failed all the time, is my environment. What I learned that there are basically two types of environment, two types. There is, first of all, there's your physical environment, which is where you fap basically, the physical location. And for me personally, this was always my bed. Like I sometimes, just like very few times, I would fap in like the shower, right? But like 99% of the time, it's my bed. So just changing the physical location, just not sitting in my bed, made my brain think, oh, we're not in the physical location, so we're not gonna do it. So the first type of environment is the physical environment, which is where you do it, basically, the physical place where you do it. It might be the bed, it might be a chair, it might be the couch, wherever, right? So the first thing is your physical. The second thing is actually, there's a digital environment, which is basically like your phone. Is like Instagram, like thirst traps, like TikTok, you know, Facebook, like social media, basically. So there's physical and there's digital environment. So all I did for environment was two things. The first thing was I just stopped sitting in my bed ever, right? I only use my bed for sleep, right? All day I either sit on my chair, on my desk, or I lay on like a yoga mat, basically, but I never sit in bed, even to this day, right? I only use my bed for sleep, right? Whereas I used to lay all day basically in bed, do everything in bed, including fapping, basically. But I stopped laying in bed. That's the first thing. Second thing was I deleted all my social media, and this was like very hard for me in the beginning, but I just did it for not only like relapsing and things like that, but also for like mental health and being just a healthy person. I deleted all social media. So I stopped laying in my bed. I only use my bed to sleep, and I deleted all social media except, of course, like YouTube and WhatsApp, because those are actually essential for me. And I know, like, this pillar of environment is super hard. Like, this is like the hardest pillar, but it's crucial, right? Especially, like, the hardest thing for me was honestly like not laying in my bed. Like, it was just super hard for me because I was just so used to it. But when I did it for like 2, 3, 4 weeks, I just got used to it, and now it just feels weird for me to do anything in bed except sleep. Like, my brain has associated my bed with sleep. Alright, so, and of course social media was very hard, but like, this is the hardest pillar, but it's also crucial. Like, your environment is literally responsible for 90% of your triggers. So this is a crucial pillar. So all I did for this pillar was, for my physical location, I stopped laying in bed, and for my digital environment, I deleted all social media. We'll actually get on, like, at the end of the video at how, like, I failed in this pillar, basically, but I'll just explain the 4 pillars first. So identity, environment, the third thing is good habit. And now let me just explain this. Now what happens is, or at least like what happened to me was, I realized that every time I tried to stop, porn or masturbation, or stop fapping basically, I realized that there was this massive gap. There was this really big gap in my life of boredom, of loneliness, of tiredness, of stress. Like, I just felt this huge gap, and it was really hard. Like, I felt like this flat line, like nothing was making me feel good basically. Like, and I couldn't sleep, and I always felt this massive gap in my life. And that was actually one of the biggest reasons why I was relapsing, is because of this gap of boredom, loneliness, tiredness, stress, right? Now, what happened was, I was addicted to fapping for 6 years, right? So the thing is, I relied on it for dopamine, and dopamine is basically like the hormone for like, that drives you to do things, that makes doing things fun, that motivates you, that makes you happy basically, right? So I relied on fapping for dopamine. But the thing is, when I stopped, I felt this massive gap of dopamine, like the dopamine just went down. And that's why I felt lonely and bored and stressed and tired. And this was actually one of the biggest things that was making me relapse, and which always made me just always go back to fapping and fapping and fapping, because I felt this gap and I never understood it. But this gap is 100% normal. But the thing is, we have to fill this gap. We have to fill it up. We can't leave it just a gap, because we will relapse. So we have to fill this gap. So the key is not to stop fapping, but to replace fapping with good habits. Basically, when we rely on fapping for dopamine, all we're gonna do, we're not gonna stop it, because that's gonna leave the massive gap in dopamine. No, we're just gonna replace it with good, healthy habits that actually benefit us long-term. Basically, I stopped fapping all the time, which is bad dopamine, and replaced it with good habits, which is good, healthy dopamine. And of course, like, I was doing like the good, healthy habits, which I talked about all the time, like working out, work, reading books, creating content, meditating, journaling, going out in nature, socializing, doing all these good, healthy habits that gave me good, healthy dopamine. So I just replaced the bad dopamine. All we're gonna do is we're just gonna replace the bad dopamine of fapping with good, healthy dopamine of good habits, basically. Basically, all I did was I did my self-improvement routine, and basically I had no time to relapse, basically, because I was just so busy. And the second thing was, I was getting good, healthy dopamine, and I had good mental health because I was doing all these good habits. So I just felt like there was no need to do porn and masturbation, basically. So those are the 3 pillars, right? Identity. What I did for this one was, I told myself I don't do that shit anymore, right? Second thing was environment. I stopped laying in bed and I deleted all my social media. The third thing was I did good habits, meditation, journaling, working out, work, reading, all these things. And of course, like your identity, your environment and your good habits fuel your identity. And the same thing vice versa, right? Like your environment roots your good habits, you know? So they're all like interconnected basically. So these three pillars, I'm gonna be honest with you, they just make relapsing very, very hard. But the thing is, I would always hear these three pillars. You've probably heard of these already, right? But the fourth pillar, all right? The fourth pillar, literally, this is not clickbait at all. This is personally from my experience and from all I've studied about addiction, literally makes relapsing impossible because it kills fapping at the root cause of it. It kills porn and masturbation at the root of it, right? And this is literally, no one talks about this, right? And I know you're gonna be stunned about this and you're not gonna believe me, but I promise this works and you will understand basically. The fourth pillar that makes relapsing impossible is love visualization. Bro, if you learned nothing from this video, focus on just this one thing, love visualization. This one thing of love visualization. I know it sounds like very weird right now and I don't understand it, but I'll explain, I promise. This one pillar, love visualization alone, made relapse basically impossible for me. So let me explain. Now every relapse, every person who's relapsed, every relapse in the entire history of man, right, happens basically exactly like this. First of all, you have lustful thoughts. It always starts with lustful thoughts. You think of you know, your favorite porn video, or you think of like a Instagram girl, or like a thirst trap or TikTok or whatever. You think of something lustful, right? And this is basically what happens to me, is I always thought of like a lustful thought. And that lustful thought turns into an urge. And an urge basically is, and that's the second thing, is it turns into an urge. So lustful thoughts and then an urge. And an urge is basically thinking, oh, I'm gonna go and watch porn, I'm gonna go and fap basically, right? So it turns into an urge. And then the third thing is rationalization. We start rationalizing. So you have the lustful thought, you think of like your favorite video, right? And then it becomes an urge to go and relapse. And then we rationalize. So rationalization is basically like when when we tell ourselves like, it's okay, I'll just do it one time, it won't be that bad, it's just one time, it's just one more time, right? It's actually healthy, like BS basically, telling yourself BS. And then fourth thing is it becomes a relapse. So first of all, lustful thought. It always starts with the lustful thought. Thought of lust, of your favorite video, or like a thirst trap, or like a picture that's lustful basically, right? And then it turns into an urge, which is you want to go and watch porn. And then it turns into rationalization, which is, oh, it's just one more time. And then it becomes a relapse, right? It doesn't really matter the entire sequence. I just want you to get that the root cause of every relapse is lustful thoughts. Every single relapse is caused by lustful thoughts. It's all in the mind. Relapse is always in the mind. It always starts in the mind. I'm telling you, every single relapse, and you will realize this, like if you've been addicted for a while, you will realize that every single time you have relapsed, it was because of a lustful thought, nothing else. And this is also from my experience. Every single time I have relapsed in all the 6 years that of failure, it was always because of a lustful thought, nothing else. The thing is, and this is what I never understood, is I knew when I understood that the root cause of relapse was lustful thoughts, I was like, how do I stop getting lustful thoughts? How do I stop getting this because it's the root cause. So how do I just remove it? But the thing is, thoughts, any thought can never be destroyed, but it can never be destroyed ever. You can never destroy a thought, but you can only replace it. So a thought can never be destroyed, it can only be replaced. So basically, we replace lustful thoughts, which is basically the root cause of every single relapse, with love visualization. Now I know you're probably wondering, like, what the hell is love visualization? What does that even mean, right? That's something like, what is that anyways? Love visualization is basically visualizing yourself giving love to your future wife or your kids or your family, or you visualize yourself giving love basically. The way I did this is I visualize myself, right, giving love to my future wife. And I do this all the time. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I always visualize, caring for my future wife in the future, holding her. Like, if something bad happens to her, like if she's like crying, I hold her, like things like that. And I realized that as like weird as this sounds, I kept visualizing myself giving love to my future wife, right? In a pure sense, of course. And it made relapse basically impossible for me because it killed the root cause. So I kept visualizing myself caring for my future wife, buying her things in the future, on my kids, spending time with my kids, all these thoughts. I kept just visualizing it in bed, right? Kept visualizing this over and over and over again. And it made relapse just impossible because it killed the root cause, which is lustful thoughts. I know it sounds like so simple, like it won't work, but I'm telling you, bro, from my personal experience, if you do this alone, if you just do this love visualization of visualizing yourself of, caring for your future wife and your future family, it will basically kill porn and masturbation at the root and make relapse impossible. It makes relapse literally impossible, because if every time you got a lustful thought, you thought of like a porn video or something like that, every single time you got a lustful thought, you replaced it with visualizing your future wife. You're visualizing yourself like caring for your future wife and giving her love. How will you relapse? Basically you won't, because it's impossible. It's impossible to have love and lust in the same time. You can either have lust or love. And the thing is, right, love kills lust basically. Visualizing love, any type of love, not even for your future wife, but that's just how I do it basically. But visualizing love kills lustful thoughts, which is the root cause of porn and masturbation. So basically, love visualization, visualizing love kills porn and masturbation at the root. If you do it consistently, of course, if you do it every time, right? Like, think about it, like lust is instant, it's short term, it's shallow, it's empty, it's a short dopamine rush and then a massive crash, right? Like it's just very weak. But love is very, very strong. It's the opposite of lust. When you visualize love, love is deep, love is lasting, love is powerful. Love is oxytocin, it's serotonin, it's vasopressin, right? And most importantly, it satisfies the deep core need within you, which is the need for connection. Because let's be honest, you never wanted porn or masturbation or fapping or relapsing. You never wanted that at all. You wanted love, you wanted intimacy, you wanted connection. You wanted a woman who actually cared for you and loved you even in hard times. That's what love actually is. So love visualization, visualizing love, visualizing yourself giving love, caring, and holding your future wife, or having fun with your kids, or buying your wife like gifts or something like that. Visualizing like love, right? Love visualization kills porn and masturbation, kills relapse at the root. Therefore, of course, making relapse impossible. All right, it makes total sense for me because, like, imagine, like, I'm gonna say this again. Imagine if every single time you got a lustful thought, you switch to thinking of love. How will you relapse? It's impossible. You can't have lust and love in the same brain. You know, even the hormones, when you visualize lust and love, are completely different. Lust is short-term dopamine, while love is long-lasting oxytocin and serotonin. So the key, literally the key to making relapse absolutely impossible is every single time we have a lustful thought, we replace it with a visualization of love. That's it. I did this, right? And this is actually how I did it, right? I went on to ChatGPT and I asked it, give me 5 visualizations of me giving love to my future wife. And they gave me 5. And you keep reading them and you keep visualizing them. And then I told them, give me 5 visualizations of me, having fun with my kids or loving my kids, right? In the future, of course. And it gave me those, and I kept reading them, and I kept visualizing them in my mind. And then I kept telling it 5 more, 5 more, 5 more, and I kept doing this. And that would just make, porn and masturbation just absolutely disgusting, because I would just keep visualizing this, and I know that this is my future wife and my future kids. This is my future. It just made it like disgusting. It just made it like disgusting, like absolutely worthless, like absolute trash. Like it literally felt disgusting to relapse. Basically, I kept asking ChatGPT for these visualizations, and I kept visualizing it until my brain craved it so much, craved these love visualizations of my future wife and my future kids so much, that it just made porn and masturbation literally just disgusting, just the thought of them. All right, so just the actionable step is, you go to ChatGPT and ask it for even the most specific visualization you want of your future wife or your future kids, and tell it, give me 5 visualizations, and it will give you those. And then you ask it for 5 more, you ask it for 5 more, ask it for 5 more, even like the most specific ones, like even like, like visualizations of you caring for your wife and kids in France while you're on a holiday, while like a robber snatches her purse. It's that specific, right? And I know it sounds like very weird, right? And I know I'm like, a lot of people are gonna look at me as cringe, which I disagree with completely. If you want to look at me as cringe, I don't care. But yeah, I'm just being honest. And if this, like, as weird as this, I won't even say, if that makes sense. Like, I know this sounds so weird, but I promise it works. It makes relapse literally impossible because it kills it at the root. Love visualization kills porn and masturbation at the root, making relapse impossible. Alright? My 4 pillars that make porn and masturbation and relapse just disgusting, make porn and masturbation disgusting, and make relapse absolutely impossible. And yeah, the 4 pillars are identity, environment, good habits, and love visualization. All right. A bonus tip. All right. A bonus tip is, if you relapse, all right, the only thing to do is to learn from it. And this is a very, very important thing, is, of course, stick to the 4 pillars as hard as you can. But if you relapse, the only thing to do is learn from it. Like, I used to always beat myself up, but the only thing we can do from a relapse is learn from it. And I promise you, if you do that, you will never relapse ever again. If you keep relapsing and every single time you learn from it, you will never relapse. And I'll actually give you a nice story. Like, this happened like a couple of months ago. So a couple of months ago, I had found the 4 pillars, and I actually went 60 days straight with the 4 pillars. Now I haven't done it for like months, right? I haven't done it for like months, and I'll never do it, like, it's permanently. But I did it for 60 days, right? And I had all the pillars in check, everything was going great. But just one thing, right? I remember I was on my yoga mat, I wasn't even in my bed because I had my physical environment to check. But here's the thing, I was on Pinterest. And Pinterest, if you open it now, don't open Pinterest, please don't open Pinterest. It's very pornified, if that's a word. So I was scrolling, just looking at pictures for like thumbnails and things like that. And suddenly I just get this photo of a woman who's literally half naked. And I haven't done it in so long. So I click on the picture, and then another picture comes, and then I relapsed after 60 days. And the thing is, like the lustful thought was so powerful that I couldn't replace it with love visualization. But after that, I felt so bad. I'm telling you, like I felt so guilty and shameful, and just hated myself. And I remember I sat on like my bench. And I just told myself, the only thing I can do is learn from this relapse. And I deleted Pinterest. And from that day on, I stopped completely. All right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, environment is probably the hardest thing, but we have to stick to environment. And just because I said that love visualization alone kills PMO, the root, and makes relapse impossible, doesn't mean you do it alone, like if that makes sense. Because the first three pillars, like, they protect you. The first three pillars, they protect you. They make it super hard for you to relapse. But the last one, which is love visualization, just makes it impossible. So all you do if you relapse is you just look at a relapse as a signal that one of the four pillars is off. And for me, for my story, it was my environment. My digital environment specifically was off. And I learned from it, I took action, I deleted Pinterest, and I didn't relapse from that day on. So this is what made me quit porn and masturbation forever. Try it, or change your life. As always, we're in this together. We will make it. Peace, take care.